ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue 2:36 p.m. Sunday, March the 31st, 2019, which also agrees with the Hijri calendar, which is now, we're in the 24th day of Rajab, 1440 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. And we continue Usul Thalatha as we arrive to the principle, speaking about the makhluqat, the creation of the seven heavens along with the seven earths, and what is in them and what is between them. That Allah Ta'ala tells us to reflect on these signs, not only the signs of His creation, but even in the signs of His religion and the signs of the Kitab and the Sunnah. All of them are from the ayat of Allah Ta'ala that He makes clear to not only establish that He deserves to be worshipped alone, but rather it affirms that He exists, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, His existence, and His rububiyyah, His lordship, and likewise His worship. The evidences and proofs, as we finished from last class, which was mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, that He says, and we discussed this ayah as we concluded the explanation of this ayah, that verily your Lord is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, then He ascended above the arsh, that He makes the night cover the day, and it seeks it very quickly or expeditiously. And the sun and the moon and the stars are all subjected to His command. Doesn't it not belong to Him, the creation and the command? Tabarakallahu Rabbul Alameen. May He be blessed, the Lord of creation. We finished that ayah. We explained it a little bit. And we move on to the next part, where it says in the evidences and proofs that the great Imam that he mentioned, that he says, وَالرَّبْ هُوَ الْمَعْبُودِ. He said, وَالدَّلِيلُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That Allah Ta'ala, that He says in His book, where He says, الرَّبْ هُوَ الْمَعْبُودِ, that the Lord, He is the one that deserves to be worshipped. And the evidence for that is the statement of Allah, O people, worship your Lord, the one who created you, and He created those before you. Perhaps, or maybe perhaps, you will tattaqoon, have that taqwa. But we talked about how the meaning of taqwa here, that the meaning of taqwa here is worship. As we'll discuss inshaAllah. The meaning of taqwa here is worship. طيب. So if everyone looks in their book, the next evidence and proof after you use the ayah, which is in Surah Al-A'raf, that we explained from last class. After we finish that, now we move on to the next evidence. If you look in your books in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 21, Allah Ta'ala says, O people, worship your Lord, the one who created you. The one who created, likewise, the one in which created those before you, so you may attain taqwa. طيب. So the next evidence and proof after Surah Al-A'raf, the great Imam uses the ayah which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 21. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, O people, worship your Lord, the one in which created you, and the one who created those before you, in order for you to attain taqwa of Allah. So now we embark upon explaining this ayah. So notice in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala addresses the people. So you'll find in certain ayats, Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas. Then you'll find ayats, Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu. O you who believe. Or you'll find that Allah Ta'ala addresses, Ya ayyuhal ladina hadu. O those who are from the Jews. Or you find in his ayat where Allah Ta'ala also says, Ya ahl kitab, O people of the book. Here Allah Ta'ala is addressing the people generally. He's saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. So, Allah Ta'ala calls out, generalizing everyone. Everyone from human beings, and He's addressing everyone of all nationalities and all races and colors. And it's not specified to one jinsiya or one culture or one nationality or what have you. Rather, it's being general. Allah Ta'ala is calling out the people to actualize the means or the reason of why they were brought into this existence in the first place. So Allah Ta'ala, as we know, in so many ayat, you'll find that Allah Ta'ala mentions rububiyyah and uluhiyyah together. You'll find that the ayat in which we've explained in so many lessons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions rububiyyah and uluhiyyah together. And He'll mention it, especially rububiyyah, numerous examples of it, in order to establish and bring the people to the certain affair which they were created for, which was His worship. So Allah Ta'ala started off with the affair in which every human being needs to know why he's walking around and why he's in this dunya momentarily. The problem is that a lot of people don't realize what is the meaning or what is the reason of why they were created. And that's the reason why you'll find that a lot of people are lost. I'm busy, I'm doing a class, you have to excuse me. You'll find that the reason of why a lot of people are lost and a lot of people are walking around like zombies due to the fact they don't know the purpose of why they were created. And not only do they not know the purpose of why they created, but also they do not actualize it, they don't actualize it in a proper manner, meaning they don't actualize the aspect of worship properly. So not only are they lost to know why they were created, but after they realize its reason, they don't know how to actualize and carry it out properly. So that is the issue. So now, in order to wake up the people from their ghafla or their heedlessness and the darkness that they're in, Allah Ta'ala addresses them by saying, O people, worship. So Allah starts off for the reason of why creation was brought into this existence by saying, U'budu. He says, U'budu rabbakum. As we have given numerous examples, and I have told the sisters this on many lessons and many classes, Allah combines uluhiyyah and rububiyyah together. You'll find, O people, worship. Worship is what, everyone? Tawheed, al-uluhiyyah or Tawheed, al-ibadah. Unification of Allah in His worship. And unification of Allah in His uluhiyyah. So Allah says to the people, worship your Lord. So Allah combines between both categories, the uluhiyyah and rububiyyah. As I've given numerous examples before, and I don't have to go slow here because the sisters have been taught this about maybe 20 or 30 times, so I'm going to go a little bit fast. So you'll find that when in an ayah where it's mentioned, O people, worship your Lord, the one who created you and the one who created those before you, in order for you to attain taqwa. Tayyib. So Allah Ta'ala addresses the people by saying, actualize the affair what you were created for. Carry out the reason of why you're in this world. In order for you to attain happiness in it and happiness in the hereafter. So Allah then gives the reason of why you should worship Him, where He mentions رَبُّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ. So Allah mentions uluhiyah. Then directly after uluhiyah, He mentions rububiyah. Then the one who created you. Rububiyah again. Number 2. And those created, and likewise those who created before you. Rububiyah has been mentioned a third time in order for you to attain taqwa. And we'll talk about that the tafsir of the meaning of taqwa here means the worship of Allah. In order for you to fear Him. Meaning لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ. Meaning in order for you to worship Him. If you go back at Surah Al-Baqarah and read ayat number 22, the ayat that comes directly after ayat number 21, you'll find Allah Ta'ala mentions Rububiyyah again. He says, الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فِرَاشًا وَالسَّمَاءَ بِنَاءً وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَخْرَجَ بِهِ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ رِزْقًا لَكُمْ فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you read Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 22, Allah mentions Rububiyyah again. So you'll find in the ayat, Rububiyyah in 21, it was mentioned 3 times. The ayat that comes directly after the ayat, or this ayat, which is ayat number 22 in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah mentions Rububiyyah maybe 4 or 5 more times and 5 more examples of it. He says, the one, الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فِرَاشًا. The one who made the earth as a way or a plane or a place for you to go about and travel and to carry out your daily affairs, to carry out, to get your sustenance, to attain the places where you dwell and live, that you go about in the earth, in which you attain and carry out your daily matters, your daily affairs. He says, الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فِرَاشًا. The one who made the earth for you, made it facilitated for you, and laid it as a plane and a level plane for you to carry out your matters. And He made the heavens as a place to send down the rain, meaning sustenance for you. وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَأَخْرَجَ بِهِ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ رِزْقًا لَكُمْ. And He brought about, as a result of that sustenance that He sent down from the heavens, meaning the rain, vegetation and agriculture and crops for you. So then Allah mentions all these different examples of Rububiyyah again in order to bring you back to another point of why He, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, mentions His Rububiyyah, which is what? And do not set up partners with Allah in His worship, even though you know. طيب. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in these ayats, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 21 and 22, He mentioned Rububiyyah approximately 6 or 7 examples of it. Of the justifying and showing the creation of why you need to worship Him alone. Allah Ta'ala singles out a characteristic. If you go back in the ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 21, Allah Ta'ala said a characteristic that He is specified by, meaning He only has that characteristic, which is the characteristic of khalq, the characteristic of creation. So again, just to re-emphasize what we just mentioned, Allah mentioned Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the Lordship of Allah, about 5 or 6 examples of it in these ayat. All in order to what? To bring you to a point, which is the important point, which is what? If you know that Allah is the one who's your Lord, the one who created you, brought you out of non-existence into existence when you did not exist, and the one who has made the earth facilitated for you, laid out, as a plane for you to carry out your daily affairs. And He also raised the heavens. And He also sent down from those heavens your sustenance. And He also likewise made and brought about that vegetation and that agriculture from the sustenance that He sent down, meaning the rain. So Allah Ta'ala mentions Rububiyyah in these two ayat, maybe 6 or 7 examples of it. In order to bring everyone to the goal of why He said in these examples, which is what? Do not set up partners with Allah, even though you know. Meaning, actualize the uluhiyah, which is the worship of Allah. Why? Because Allah gave the numerous examples of His rububiyyah, which is that He's your Lord, He created you. And notice Allah Ta'ala used the characteristic of khalq. Why did Allah Ta'ala use khalq as an example of His rububiyyah? Because there's nothing in this existence that can create, meaning bring something from non-existence into existence except Allah. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the only one that can bring something from non-existence into existence. And that is the reason why Allah uses these ayat, especially the characteristic of khalq, to establish upon the creation that He deserves to be worshipped. Why? Because if something cannot create, then it does not deserve to be a deity of worship. If you now look to anything that is worshipped besides Allah, from those different types of deities and those different types of paganistic ways, or those type of statues, or those type of paganistic beliefs or omens or deities that are worshipped besides Allah, can they bring something from non-existence into existence? And can they create something from non-existence? Even if it's some of the prophets and the messengers and the angels, can they bring something from non-existence into existence? Can they bring something of the human being when he was not known where he was at one specific time? Then he was brought into this dunya and he realized that there was a people that lived before him, died before him, and passed away before him, and that he was brought into this particular time. Let's just say, for example, a person that was born in 1975 or 1960 or 1962, for example. Then he was brought into this existence and he realized that there was a time before me, and that there were people before me, and that there were a past before me, and that there were histories, and there was what? Affairs and events that took place before I was born. So where was I? And why all of a sudden I've been brought into this existence at this particular time? So Allah Ta'ala brought the human being and certain people in certain times, in certain centuries, in certain places where they before did not know where they were and who they were. And Allah Ta'ala brought them into their existence, into this dunya. And now Allah Ta'ala brings the evidences and proofs, saying that none of the deities or the prophets or the messengers or the malaika or all those different types of creation, the makhluqat, even if they are the best of creation, none of them have the characteristic of khalq. None of them have the characteristic of creation. None of them can create. None of them can bring something from non-existent to existence. And if that's the case, then they do not deserve to be worshipped. Rather, the only one that deserves to be worshipped is the one who has this characteristic, which is of khalq. And you'll find that Allah Ta'ala says in this book, in so many ayat, saying that even it is impossible that there is more than one deity in this existence. Why? A person would say, isn't Allah Ta'ala, doesn't He have the ability to create another deity like Him? A person might say, or might have some type of satanic thought or some type of satanic way of thinking. And you'll find that Shaitan utilizes this way of thinking to cast doubt on the people. For example, you'll find there are people out there that will say, doesn't Allah have the ability to create a deity, someone like Him, that can govern the affairs of the creation? Doesn't Allah have the ability to have a son? Doesn't Allah have the ability to have a partner in this existence? Can He create a deity of one similar to Him? Doesn't Allah can He create a wife for Himself? A wife? Or a son? And you'll find that these are the satanic whispers that the people of doubt come with in order to instill reluctancy and doubt in one's belief system. As far as in regards to the question, to say, doesn't Allah have the ability to create a deity of one similar to Him? Or doesn't Allah Ta'ala have the ability to create a son, and He can have a one only son, or as the Christians say, His begotten son? Or doesn't Allah Ta'ala have the ability to have a wife or a female partner? And we say that in answer to this, number one, Allah Ta'ala's ability, His qudrah, was complete ability, is not connected with certain affairs that if it was to be brought into existence, it would necessitate naqs, it would necessitate deficiency. For example, the question if a person asks, doesn't Allah have the ability to eat? Doesn't Allah have the ability to sleep? Doesn't Allah have the ability, for example, to take or rest or relax? Doesn't Allah have the ability to drink? Does Allah have the ability to have children? Does Allah have the ability? All these affairs, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, if you notice, all these affairs are characteristics that necessitates a deficiency. The bathroom is a deficiency. Sleep is a deficiency for a deity of worship, for one who's all powerful, all dominant and complete in all of his characteristics. If we was to say sleep, that means that one gets tired. That's a deficiency of a deity. Or for example, one having children, that's a deficiency in the one that's a deity, because the children are only made for one for allow his lineage to exist and to what? To continue to exist. And for his lineage and his family to continue. That's a deficiency. To have a female partner, also likewise, for one can go to his female companion to satisfy his desires. That's deficiency for a deity. That's completeness for a human being, for a created human being. For verily, these are characteristics that are befitting for the creation, not the creator. Sleep is for the creation. Going to the bathroom is for the creation. Eating is for the creation. Sleeping is for the creation. Having children is for the creation. Having a wife is for the creation. And having a partner to aid him in certain affairs is from the characteristics of the creation, not the creator. For verily, if we negate these affairs, rather it necessitates the opposite. If a person does not have any need all these affairs, rather it would necessitate that he's complete in every aspect. That's the reason why we negate that Allah Ta'ala sleeps. We negate that Allah has, for example, the need of anything, or that Allah has a need for children, or that Allah has a need for a female companion, or that He has a partner or a deity in this existence that governs the affairs along with Him. That's the reason why Allah Ta'ala says in this book. He says in this book, and He was talking about this affair which we're explaining right now. Well, Allah Ta'ala says in this book, He says, وَلَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. If there was a deity or other deities along with Allah in this existence, He said, they will all be corrupt. They will cause corruption in this existence. There's another ayah where Allah Ta'ala says in His book, that Allah Ta'ala says about what we're talking about exactly in Surah Al-Mu'mineen, or Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayah number 91. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ وَلَدٍ وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ إِذًا لَذَهَبَ كُلُّ إِلَهٍ بِمَا خَلَقَ وَلَعَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ سُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَتَعَالَى عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. Allah says, Tabarak wa Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah did not take on children. Allah makes it clear. مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ وَلَدٍ. Allah did not take on any children. Allah has not taken a son. Nor does He have anyone, or nor has there ever been with Him a deity to help Him govern this existence or administrate the affairs of this existence. Listen to what Allah says. If that was the case, every deity would have went off for what it created. And one would try to subdue the other, or one would try to overcome the other. Glory be to Him or what they ascribe as partners, Tabarak wa Ta'ala. The all-knower of what is unseen and seen. And may He be high above what they associate as partners in His worship. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in this ayah, notice that He used the word khalq, creation again, in order to establish the truth and nullify falsehood. Allah says, Allah did not take on a child, nor does He have children. Allah did not take on a son. So Allah in this ayah is refuting the Christians, clearly. And certain other ayat, Allah makes it, He even names the Christians and refutes them by saying, Jesus is not His son. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah lays it down clearly, addressing the Christians and refuting their falsehood with their claim that He has a son. And Allah also refuted the people of the book by saying He has children. As Allah Ta'ala says, Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَ نَحْنُ أَبْنَاءُ اللَّهِ وَأَحِبَّاؤُهُ قَالَ فَلِمَا يُعَذِّبُكُمْ بِذُنُوبِكُمْ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ مِّمَّا خَلَقَ يَغْفِرُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah Ta'ala says that the people of the book, from the Jews and the Christians, say, we are Allah's children and we're his loved ones. Allah refutes that claim again. He says, why does he punish you due to your sins then? Rather, you're just merely men and mankind that he created. He forgives whom he wills and he punishes who he wills. Allah in this ayah also is refuting that there's more than one deity that deserves to be worshipped by saying that all these affairs that the people ascribe to Allah necessitates deficiency. When you say Allah has a deity, for Allah Ta'ala. So let's get back to the initial affair at hand. We said it about 10 minutes ago. The question again, does Allah have the ability to create a deity similar to him? Doesn't Allah have the ability to have a son? Doesn't Allah have the ability to have a wife or female companion? Like we said, these are all the same questions that you would say, does Allah have the ability to drink? Does Allah have the ability to eat? Does Allah have the ability to sleep? To sum up the answer to this question, we say Allah's ability is not connected with affairs that necessitates a deficiency, because it would negate him being the deity and the all-powerful and the all-complete that deserves to be worshipped, because all these affairs are befitting for the creation, not the creator. Because all these characteristics are characteristics of a deficiency. To have a partner, his ability is not created with something that would necessitate, if he was to bring about, or if he was to bring about the affair, it would necessitate a deficiency. For Allah, Ta'ala's ability is not created with having a partner in this existence, meaning having another deity. And Allah Ta'ala talks about this in this ayah, Surah Al-Mu'minun, that if this was the case, that if there was another deity, every deity will go off to what? Of what they created. One kingdom, he will go off with his kingdom. One of the deities will want this one to be alive. He will want that one to be dead. He will want that one to be rich. No. I want that one to be rich, that one to be poor. They will all argue, and that's the reason why Allah says one will try to overcome and subdue the other. That's the reason why it's impossible that there be more than one deity governing this existence and administrating its affairs. Number one, because we said Allah Ta'ala's, his characteristics, these are characteristics of what we mentioned of having, for example, a partner, or having a son, or having a female companion, or having children, or having the need to drink, to sleep, to eat. His ability is not connected with none of these affairs, because Allah Ta'ala does not bring about affairs that necessitates a deficiency. And all these characteristics necessitates a deficiency. To want a woman, to want a children, eat, drinking, sleeping, and having another deity to aid me in administrating in certain matters and governing certain matters and administrating certain matters, that I need someone to help me or aid me, is a deficiency. That only befits the human being, or only befits the makhluk, not the khaliq. It befits the creation, not the creator. So that's the answer for those who try to say, for example, does Allah have the ability to have a child? You can't say, can't God? And some of the Christians say this, and I've heard them even say this. Can't God can't he now create his own son? Why can't he not create his own son? Can't God create a wife for himself? Can't he have a female partner for himself? And we say the answer to this, the same thing we just mentioned, is the same thing when you say, are you saying that? Is it befitting to ask this question? Can God have the ability to eat? Can God have the ability to sleep? Can God have the ability to now have children? Or can God go to the bathroom? All those questions and all of those characteristics necessitate a deficiency. And it does not befit the creator, rather it befits the creation. So we negate all these affairs. Allah having a partner. Allah having children. Allah, because of children necessitate also a need. To have children necessitates a need. And Allah has the characteristic of what they call ghina and mutlaqa. Absolute self-sufficiency and complete in every aspect as far as him being independent and also self-sufficient and not in need of anyone or anything. Allah does not need at all. He does not have the characteristic of haja. Allah does not have the characteristic of need. Rather, he has the characteristic of absolute ghina, enrichment, self-sufficiency, and completeness. And children negates that. The reason why people have children is to continue their lineage, to continue their existence in this world, to continue their family, to continue their self-preservation of who they are, and to continue it, and for it can be what? Long-lasting, and also so their type of family or lineage can be preserved. So he has children to keep it going. That befits the creation, not the creator. To have a female wife or to have a wife is also a characteristic that necessitates a need. Men or creation only need a partner, or they need someone to go to a woman, or a woman needs to go to a man in order to have a family, or to have children, or to have a family, or to have, for example, an emotional gratification, or some type of emotional or some type of feeling of comfort or security. That's a need for creation, not the creator. So that's the reason why we say his complete ability is not connected with these affairs, because they necessitate a deficiency, incompleteness. That's the reason why we say, rather, Ahlul Sunnah, or the people who have the correct Aqidah, do not even say these statements out their mouth, because their Aqidah and their belief system is intact. So we will never ask these questions. We will never say, is Allah able to have a deity along with him in this existence? Ahl al-Aqidah as-Salima as-Sahiha, the people of the correct belief and the upright belief, will never ask these questions, because they know that these affairs are affairs of deficiency and incompleteness, and it does not befit the Creator, who has all characteristics of completeness in every aspect. And that's just to sum it up. So you'll find if the ayah in which Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, in ayah number 21, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, O people, worship your Lord, the one who created you. Meaning, the one who created you alone. No one else can create except Allah. No one can create, not shaitan. So it does not befit that you worship the devil. It does not befit that you worship the sun. It does not befit that you worship Buddha. It does not befit that you worship Jesus, the son of Mary. Alayhi wa ala nabiyina afdal as-salatu wa tammu taslim. Nor does it befit that you worship our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because none of them can create. None of the prophets and the messengers and the malaika, even though they are from the best of creation, none of them can create. None of them can bring anything from non-existence to existence, and none of them can bring anyone to die. Just Jesus, the son of Mary, right now, is he causing anyone to die? And will Jesus, the son of Mary, bring everyone back on the day of resurrection and bring them alive again? No, he does not have that ability. That's only for one deity. That's the reason why you'll find Allah Ta'ala utilizes the characteristic of khalq, of creation, in order to establish upon the creation that he is the one that deserves to be worshipped alone, not those who are associated as partners with him in his worship, whether they be from the talihin or the salihin, whether they be from the wretched or whether they be from the righteous. If you look back in the ayah, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. A lot of people think that it's just in order for you to attain taqwa. If you look to the last part of the ayah in your book, if you look in your book, everyone, it says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. In order for you to what? Have taqwa. Last part of the ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 21. When Allah Ta'ala says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, notice that Allah says, perhaps, in order for you to attain taqwa, was connected with, after Allah says, the one who created you and the one who created those before you. Meaning that it's all connected. Meaning that you've been created in order for you to actualize Allah's worship. So the meaning of taqwa here is worship. The proof, what's the proof of that? The proof of that is what Ibn al-Qayyim, what he mentions. As Ibn al-Qayyim mentions about the tafsir of this ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah, which is in his book called Bada'i'u al-Fawaid. Ibn al-Qayyim says that Allah, when he mentions taqwa here, فَيَكُونَ الْمَعْنَى خَلَقَكُمْ لِتَتَّقُوا وَلَيْسَ أُعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ لِتَتَّقُوا واستظهره ابن القيم لوجوه. الوجه الأول أن التقوى هي العبادة والشيء لا يكون علة لنفسه. Ibn al-Qayyim said that the meaning of taqwa in the ayah, he said taqwa is ibadah. Taqwa is ibadah. He says, and nothing can be a reason by itself. Meaning that taqwa necessitates that there's something greater than that, which is actual worship. Because taqwa is ibadah. Taqwa, or fear of Allah and piety, is ibadah. It is worship. How can it not be? The second meaning that Ibn al-Qayyim mentions, he says, أنه نظير قوله تعالى وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. He said, number two, the reason why taqwa here means worship, he said, because it's similar to the statement of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which is a sort of Dhariyat, that I have not created jinn, the unseen jinn, and mankind except to worship me. Why? Because in the ayah Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah has mentioned uluhiyya and rububiyyah together. And if you look at Surah Al-Dhariyat, Allah says, I have not created jinn and ins except to worship me. Both categories of tawheed have been mentioned. I have not created you. What category of tawheed is that, everyone? Rububiyyah. Except to worship me. What category of tawheed is that? Uluhiyyah. Rububiyyah and uluhiyyah all come together in so many ayahs. Allah says it so many times. The reason why you need to worship him, because he did this. And he's the only one that does this. And notice that Allah created, and Allah mentioned what? Creation again. So notice this word creation keeps coming up in so many contexts in the book of Allah. Allah talks about khalq again. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنِّ. So Allah mentions khalq again, and and Allah used that characteristic, like we said, for a reason, ya ma'ashal ikhwa. The reason why it was mentioned, because there's no one else that can create other than Allah. From bringing something from non-existence into existence. And also Ibn al-Qayyim says the third reason is أن الخلق أقرب في اللفظ إلى قوله لعلكم تتقون من الأمر. He says because creation is the closest in what was utilized in its wording in Surah Al-Baqarah, and that is the closest of what the meaning of fair necessitates, which is of taqwa. Taqwa refers back to khalq. So the meaning of it in actuality is, like we said, it is ibadah, it's worship. Tattaqun at-taqwa. And as we know the meaning of taqwa, of what the Salaf used to mention, the meaning of piety or taqwa, at-taqwa hiya an taj'ala baynaka wa bayna 'adhabillah wiqaya. فتوحد الله وتحذر من الوقوع في الشرك والمعاصي. He said that, as we know, taqwa, as the Salaf used to describe it, that you make between you and yourself, that you make between yourself and the punishment of Allah a barrier, or protective barrier, or a shield. That's the meaning of taqwa. Taqwa means that you make between yourself and the punishment of Allah a barrier, or shield. So you unify Allah, and you are on guard against falling into polytheism and disbelief. Because once you fall into polytheism and disbelief, you have removed that barrier. And you've removed that shield, which will now put you and plunge you in the eternal punishment of Allah forever. And as it was asked, as Umar al-Khattab asked Ubay ibn Ka'b, what is the meaning of taqwa? Umar, the Khalifa al-Rashid, radiyallahu anhu ardah, asked Ubay ibn Ka'b, ما التقوى؟ قال هل أخذت طريقا ذا شوك؟ قال نعم. قال فما عملت فيه؟ قال حذرت وتشمرت. قال كعب وذلك التقوى. So Umar asks Ubay ibn Ka'b, the great Sahabi, what is the meaning of taqwa? He said, have you ever embarked upon a path that has shoke, that it has those sharp, that it had those shoke in it? He said that I had those what do you call them? Those sharp splinters, or those type of sharp type of things up in the end of a tree. What is that bush called? Shoke. But at any rate, that it has in it those sharp little objects on the ground. He says, of course. He says, when you've seen that path that has something, those little sharp things that's on the ground, what did you do with it? How did you travel? What did you do on top of it? He says, I was very, very careful when I was walking on that particular path. And he said, I rolled up my garment in order not to harm myself. So Ka'b says, that is taqwa. That is taqwa. طيب. So everyone flip the page. Alhamdulillah, we basically explained this. Alhamdulillah, we didn't even have to. But just to read it. Everyone flip the page. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 22, which is basically what we already took. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, He is the one that made the earth facilitated for you as a firash. And the meaning of firash, meaning of bisat, something spread out for you. Allah made the earth and the dunya and a place to be spread out for you. Spread out, to be facilitated, making everything upon it in your reach to obtain, to benefit yourself in so many different affairs. Allah Ta'ala says He's the one that made the earth a firash. Which category of tawheed is that, everyone? What category of tawheed is that? Rububiyyah. Jayyid. The one that made the heavens raised. What category of tawheed is that? Rububiyyah. The one that sent down from the heavens rain or water. What category of tawheed is that? And He brought about from it that vegetation, those crops, and that agriculture. What category of tawheed is that? Rububiyyah again. Do not set up partners along with Allah, and you know. Even though you know. What category of tawheed is that? Which category of tawheed is that? The sisters can speak up, because I'm in another room. Can you speak up again? Is it rububiyyah or uluhiyyah? Uluhiyyah. طيب. Jayyid. Alhamdulillah, we already explained that. طيب, flip the page, everyone. Go to the statement what Ibn Kathir, what he mentions, Ibn Kathir. Sahib al-Tafsir, the great Imam, Ibn Kathir. Read what the great Imam, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab goes on to say, what Ibn Kathir mentions. He said, Al-Khaliq, notice he mentioned Khaliq again. Al-Khaliq lihadihi al-ashya huwa al-mustahiq lil-ibadah. The one who created these matters, or created these things, He is the one that deserves to be worshipped. He is the one that deserves to be worshipped. This is the statement of Ibn Kathir. He said, Al-Mujidu lis-samawat wal-aradin wal-jibal wal-ashjar wal-shams wal-qamar wal-layl wal-nahar wal-insan wa ghayra dhalik min al-makhluqat min al-adam huwa alladhi yastahiq an ya'budahu an-nas wahdahu. He says, the one who originated and brought into existence the seven heavens, the seven earths, the mountains, the trees, the sun, the moon, the night, the rivers, mankind, and other than that of the creation, when He brought them from non-existence. Notice He says from min al-adam, from non-existence. And He brought them from non-existence. He is the only one that deserves to be worshipped, or the only one that the people worship. Alone, and that they not set up partners in His worship, anyone in the least. And this is the usage of evidence why Allah uses rububiyyah in order to indicate His uluhiyyah. This is why you'll find in the book of Allah, Allah uses this as the evidence of rububiyyah upon His uluhiyyah. His lordship, meaning His actions, in order to bring the people to the reason why they were brought into this existence, which is the worship of Allah. And Allah nullifies the of one other than him deserving that worship. And a lot of ayat in which we don't have time to get into, but we've already discussed this before. For example, أَفَمَنْ يَخْلُقُ كَمَنْ لَا يَخْلُقُ. Again, أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah Ta'ala mentions the Surah An-Nahl, ayat number 17. Again, is the one that creates, is he like the one that cannot create? Will you not take heed? So Allah uses what again, everyone? Khalq. Creation again. Which is from his rububiyyah in order to establish his what? His uluhiyyah. It was ibadah. So notice these ayats are talking about khalq again. Khalq. Creation. Is the one that creates like the one that cannot create? Will you not take heed? Meaning, why are you worshiping the sun now? Why are you worshiping the moon? Why are you believing in omens? Why are you believing in bad luck? Why are you believing in zodiac signs? Why are you believing in Buddha? Why are you believing that Jesus is Lord? Well, he's just a prophet and messenger. And even to the Muslims from the deviant sects, why do you believe that Muhammad ﷺ is deserving of worship? None of these from the creation, whether they be from the righteous or the wretched, has the characteristic of khalq, has the characteristic of creation. So why are you worshiping them? Whether they be from the wretched or whether they be from the righteous. It does not matter. None of them have the sifat al-khalq. None of them have the characteristic of creation, of bringing something from non-existence to existence. And that's the reason why Allah is the only one that deserves to be worshipped. And that's another example to show how Allah Ta'ala mentions the word khalq again in the ayah. And you'll find that the qa'idah, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, the qa'idah, the principle of what we say, in which we want to sum it up by saying this principle, or saying this poetry, where it says, وَمَنْ بِخَلْقِهِ وَمُلْكِهِ تَفَرُّدًا فَاعْبُدْهُ وَحْدَهُ كَذَاكَ السُّعَدَى وَكَذَاكَ السَّعْدَى. There's a poetry that says, وَمَنْ بِخَلْقِهِ وَمُلْكِهِ تَفَرُّدًا فَاعْبُدْهُ وَحْدَهُ كَذَاكَ السُّعَدَى. He says, with the one who has the only characteristic of creation, and the only characteristic where he owns everything, and he's singled out with those matters, then he's the only one that deserves to be worshipped, and likewise you'll be happy. And likewise you'll attain happiness. وَمَنْ بِخَلْقِهِ وَمُلْكِهِ تَفَرُّدًا فَاعْبُدْهُ وَحْدَهُ كَذَاكَ السُّعَدَى. طيب. Flip the page, everyone. If you go to the next principle, it says أنواع العبادة التي أمر الله بها مثل الإسلام والإيمان والإحسان. Was the door open? Somebody open the door? He says the different types, if you go back to the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he goes on to say, he said, وَأَنْوَاعُ الْعِبَادَ الَّتِي أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِثْلُ الْإِسْلَامِ وَالْإِيمَانِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. And the various types of worship which Allah commanded us with, similar to Islam and Iman and Ihsan. So after the great Imam that he established all these matters in which we clarified in this book so far, notice the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab now clarifies, what are those matters what is examples of worship that is obligatory for us to unify Allah Ta'ala in and to single out Him in His worship? What are they? So after he's laid down the foundation and he clarified it in detail, all these matters, all these principles that we've been covering, that, for example, what is obligatory upon every human being to have knowledge of, started from the beginning of the book all the way up to where we stop, where he established, talking about and touching on shirk, touching on ibadah, or the tawheed of Allah, the importance of it, and the great significance of the creation, carrying that out and actualizing it in their lives. And also, likewise, you find that the great Imam in his book emphasizing not only these principles, but learning it with its proofs and evidences. Learning it with its evidences and proofs from Kitab and Sunnah, which is very important. Memorizing the ayat, and the proof. Not only the principle, but memorizing the proof along with it. Bringing different types of proofs and evidences to establish that he is the one that deserves to be worshipped, and that is the only thing that will rectify humanity and society as a whole. There's nothing else that will rectify humanity and human beings and society and cultures or races if they are not actualizing the reason of why they were brought into this world, into this dunya, which is to unify Allah in His worship. Other than that, nothing else will work. Everything else will fail. So after the great Imam, after the great scholar laid down all these foundations, now he started giving different examples of how to unify Allah in His worship. And in what is incumbent upon us to unify Allah in His worship. In what thing? In what affairs? What are they? So this is the reason why he goes on this book to say the different various types of worship in which Allah commanded, similar to Islam and Iman and Ihsan. So as ibadah, so he said different types of ibadah. Before we get into the different types of ibadah, we have to know that every affair of ibadah is established upon two foundations. As worship is the most utmost of servitude with the most utmost of love. As we know, the ibadah of worship يتضمن أمرين يتضمن أمرين اثنين, that it includes two most very important matters. غاية الذل مع غاية الحب, most utmost of servitude and subservience, the most utmost of love. So all the affairs of worship, before we give the different examples of ibadah, is established upon these two matters. And every affair of the ibadah, a person would say, well, what is the ibadah? That's what we're going to speak about that in a minute. But before we talk about the types of ibadah that it's obligatory to unify Allah in, as far as in His worship, then we have to lay down this foundation. That ibadah is established upon the most utmost of servitude, the most utmost of love. And that all the affairs of worship go around those two foundations. As we know, the poetry عبادة الرحمن غاية حبه مع ذل عابده هما قطبان وعليهما فلك العبادة دائر ما دار حتى قامت القطبان ومدار الأمر أمر رسوله لا بالهوى والنفس والشيطان. As Ibn al-Qayyim says in Nuniyya, rahimahullah, he says in his poetry. He says that the ibadatul rahmani is ghayat hubbihi. He said that the worship of the most merciful is done with the most utmost of love, with the most utmost of servitude. He said they are the two pillars. They are the two pillars. Meaning that you cannot worship Allah based upon love, but you're not having servitude. Nor can you worship Allah with servitude without love. They have to be both, and they go hand in hand. A person would say, why and how? He says, because if he was to set that example, even with the creation, for example, you can love someone and claim to have love, but in your actions, it does not display it. And how many people do we know out here that say that they're Muslim and they disobey Allah, even though they claim verbally that they love Him? But in their actions, it does not manifest itself. That's the servitude. That's the worship and the servitude that one has to carry out. So, and how many people do we know that even us, of human beings, a person can say they love you all day, they're still mistreating you and still not doing right by you and showing you respect and treating you fit and treating you well and treating you good and treating you with all the different type of honorable characteristics that he or she is supposed to, their claim is not acceptable. Oh, I love you even though you smack me. You love me even though you mistreat me. You love me even though you deprive me. You love me, you don't feed me. You don't treat me well. You don't do anything. But you claim you love me. Even human beings do not accept this. How about with Allah Ta'ala subhanahu wa lahu al-mathalu al-a'la, and to him is the highest and best example. So that's why we said every affair of worship is established upon these two matters. Ghayat al-hub ma'a ghayat al-dhul. The most utmost of love with the utmost of servitude. You cannot claim that you love and you have no servitude for Allah, even though you say it. I love Allah. Tayyib. Where's the servitude of worship? Where's your prayer? Where's carrying out your daily duties that you're obliged to carry out daily? Where's you attended the Jumu'at? Where's you learning knowledge? Where is it sitting in circles of knowledge? Where is it that you love those who love Allah, who is from His awliya? That's part of the servitude. Where is it now? Learning the Tawheed of Allah, which is what? That's the servitude. Tayyib. So we gave examples of one can claim that they have love, but they have to have servitude along with it. Then the opposite also is not acceptable. One cannot have servitude and not have love for Allah. You cannot carry out certain affairs, and then at the same time you say that you hate Allah. That's similar to the individual who's a person who's a servant. How many people we know, especially slaves of the past, that they used to serve people, but at the same time they used to hate their guts? You can have serving, we know that during the times of the slaves here in America, that they used to what? They used to have servitude, but they had no love for them. They used to serve them, but have no love for them. They used to be servants, carrying out subservience, and lowering themselves by doing a service for certain people, but at the same time, they used to not have any love for them. For verily, Allah Ta'ala is incumbent upon one to not only just have servitude, but to also love Allah and to love what He's doing in order to also carry out the affairs of worship. So that's the reason why we said that these two foundations these two principles, these two words are the foundations for every affair of worship. So worship is the most utmost of love with the most utmost of subservience and servitude. One cannot be free of the other. So that is the meaning of ibadah. Ibadah is established upon those two affairs, and likewise the ta'rif and the definition of ibadah, in which I'm sure that the sisters are familiar with. And we said that the meaning of ibadah is يجمع كمال الحب لله ونهايته وكمال الذل. So number one, you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim establishes this matter by saying that ibadah, number one, is a name that gathers the most complete love of Allah and the most utmost of it, and the most complete of servitude for Allah and the most utmost of it, and the most complete of it as far as a human being. He said, فَالْحُبْ الْخَلِيِّ عَنِ الذُّلِّ وَالذُّلِّ الْخَلِيِّ عَنْ حُبْ لَا يَكُونْ عِبَادَةً. For verily love that is void of servitude and servitude that is void of love will never be worship. Rather, worship gathers between the most completeness of these two affairs. Completeness of these two affairs. That's why ibadah is not befitting except only for Allah. There's no way that you can have the most utmost of love with the most utmost of servitude for anything that is created. Rather, it's only for the Creator, and if it's given for other than Him, then that's considered the most utmost of polytheism. وينبغي أن يعلم كمال الحب يتضمن معنى الحمد وأن كمال الذل يتضمن معنى التعظيم. Also, I want to mention an important point when Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, that he says it is befitting that one should know that Kamal al-Hub yatadamman ma'na al-Hamd. He says that utmost of love, that it contains the meaning of praise. And that most utmost of servitude, it contains the meaning of magnification. contains the meaning of that magnification. So ibadah, also as we know the ta'rif and the definition, after we laid down the two foundations, after one has actualized and gathered between both of those matters, we said that ibadah is what? Ismun jami' li kulli ma yuhibbuhu Allah wa yardah min al-aqwal wal-a'mal al-batina wal-zahira. That ibadah is a conclusive word for everything that Allah loves and He's pleased with of statements and actions openly and secretly. We'll stop here inshallah. We'll continue next week. And we're going to skip through some of the different affairs of the examples of worship because alhamdulillah we cover that in Kitab al-Tawheed. So we can start on the second volume. So we can summarize this and we can alhamdulillah continue the next week. So the first part of the book, or the first half of the book, for the most part, we're done. طيب, we'll stop here. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions from the sisters? Any questions from the sisters?